Thank you for your service and commitment that you provide to your faith community. Everyone's contribution helps makes our parishes and school a place where we can encounter Christ. We now have the organizational structure in place in Harvest of Hope that will allow us to sustain our ministries and faith communities. We have created a common pastoral council, a leadership team of shared staff, and regular gatherings of staff members from each parish. Our parishes already had strong finance councils, faith formation teams, liturgical leaders, and necessary committees to promote vibrant faith. And our common communication network with the bulletin, homepage, My Parish app, and social media are in place to keep us connected. So it's time to plan for planting seeds to grow an abundant harvest of ministries and discipleship and Harvest of Hope. Of course, it's still important to respect public safety and remain within the limitations given us, but we can prepare the garden and acquire the seeds necessary to plant when public safety permits it. I want to propose a method of planting here. I'll begin with a story about a couple named Julie and Dan. They had moved to town and soon after were blessed with their third child. They went to the local Catholic church to have their baby baptized. At first, they were a little disappointed that they were asked to attend the baptismal class since it was their third child. But they found the class insightful, and they met several fun couples from the baptism preparation team. And the pastor stopped by their house to meet them before the baptism. He seemed approachable and insightful. And they really found the celebration to be meaningful because they understood the symbols of baptism well, and people were so welcoming. One person in the congregation invited them to a young parents group where they prayed and talked about faith and family life. Julie and Dan were told that people often came only once or twice, so there was no pressure to come every month. They were so encouraged by the baptism that they decided to check it out. And it was fun. They went only twice because of their busy schedule, but they met 3 couples who went to Mass together on Sunday, so they decided to join them and check that out. Mass felt prayerful. People sang. The congregation was welcoming. The message brief and provoking. On the way out, Julie and Dan stopped for a donut. People at their table talked about their impression of the gospel from the Mass. It was fun and meaningful, so they kept going. Julie and Dan grew to love their church and looked forward to seeing friends there. They found it inspiring that there were meaningful service opportunities and that the parish had this connection to an organization in Africa through the mission office. Faith felt real and active there. When it came time to choose a school, Julie and Dan already had friends who sent their kids to the Catholic school, so it felt like a natural choice. And during those 10 years at the school, 2 things percolated in them: interaction with other parents and teachers, and the positive impact on their children inspired a commitment to faith-based education. And they realized how much support they were given along the way by the parish. So at an annual stewardship presentation, Julie and Dan talked it over and decided to commit to donating $1,000 to their parish each year. Julie and Dan were regularly invited to assist in ministries at the parish, but they respectfully declined because they were really busy. And no one made them feel guilty for that. When their kids were grown, Dan became a pastoral council member and Julie a dedicated catechist. They could also be counted upon to respond when there were larger projects in the parish. When Julie and Dan first came for their child's baptism, they had no intention of entering so deeply into the life of the church. But along the way, they just enjoyed meeting and seeing people, and they found their faith increasingly life-giving. Through the course of it, discipleship in Jesus Christ became the most defining part of their lives. Now, their story is not unique among people in their age demographic who settle away from their hometown. Methodologically speaking, I would note how many pieces were in place to make this happen, how there was always someone there at each step to invite them deeper. We use the term for this conscious development of those pieces as evangelization. When people hear that word evangelization, they often think of heavy preaching and uncomfortable settings. There is a Catholic way, a natural and fun way to do it. It builds on relationships and creates its own dynamics. It can be likened to a funnel where people are gradually pulled into a deeper level of discipleship. And here are the basics. First, there must be a well-prepared, inviting entryway. In a typical year, we have hundreds of people who come to our parishes for funerals, weddings, baptisms, to visit for Mass or stop by for special concerns. So it's helpful to have people in place to welcome them and kind of feel out their own faith needs. We also need warm celebrations so they feel at home when they're there. Typically, these members or visitors will come only for their intended celebrations. Instead of lamenting that, we might prepare for the next level of the funnel so that they feel attracted to enter a little deeper. Most might not choose to do so, but those who do will do so because they feel something meaningful and life-giving. At this stage, relationships are what matters. We need to get to know them, find out what they're looking for. So social gatherings, Bible studies, faith sharing, groups that reflect on specific topics, faith formation, youth ministry, an opportunity for prayer is what people are searching for. It's what will draw them in. People at this stage want to learn how to pray well. They want to understand their faith so it can be a tool for personal meaning and happiness. Once they get to that level, it's the power of Christ and the working of the Holy Spirit that we can rely on. We're not selling a toy to be played with for a year and set aside. We're inviting them to encounter Jesus Christ. So we should take confidence in that. It's at this stage where we can begin to have discussions about discipleship. We can discern with them to find out their interests and gifts and invite them to use them in our community. It's only when one is at this level of discipleship that you can reasonably expect a larger financial contribution. So when we raise these needs to their attention, we can do so with confidence because people want what they love to thrive. They will be generous because they believe in the mission of their church. People who reach this level are the core members of a parish. Now, every single person has a unique faith story, so the goal is not to set out the steps and make them walk down them. The goal in pastoral planning is to recognize the typical pattern. Then we use the many gifts of our community to foster relationships and invite others to be a part. That is how we plant the seeds for an abundant harvest of faith for our family members, for our neighbors, and for our friends. So that is the typical method of planting seeds in a parish. Your task as leaders of your community is to talk about the details of planting and the tools we need to do it. Remember, we already have a strategic plan and active committees to help us understand the garden layout. There's so much here to build upon. Dreaming of the future is exciting. Dreaming together inspires hope. It builds relationships and it pulls us even deeper into discipleship. So we can enjoy that process for itself. But as Saint Benedict correctly instructs us, before we begin any task, let us earnestly pray that all we do will be for the greater glory of God.